to the basement.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the basement. We are the Basement Boys. This is the Basement Boys podcast. I'm Chris Gray. That's Devin Mitchell.
What to do?
We're just gonna get into it right away. Dev, I will let you take the floor.
So, first and foremost, we got to touch on a very serious topic, and that is the murder of George Floyd, out in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And if you don't know, sorry, you've been living under a rock because it's everywhere. Everyone has to know about this. But the black man was unfortunately being detained, and while he was being detained and cuffed, a white police officer was using excessive force by applying pressure to his neck with his knee. Held it there for about 8 minutes and some change. And 2 of those minutes he was unresponsive. Now, obviously, this has caused a major uproar in the world because it's no longer a black-white thing. It's a human right thing. Unfortunately, you have young African-American men and women out there not sure they could trust the police, or if they approach in a way, they're gonna be detained, arrested, assaulted, or worse, murder. And unfortunately, this has got to stop, and a little justice has come out. The officer in charge, I forget his name, but has been charged with third-degree murder and I believe second-degree manslaughter. It's looking at 25 years and 10 years respectively. So if he was convicted of both charges, he could be facing 35 years in prison.
The officer's name is Derek Chauvin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but sorry.
No, it's good because I forgot his name. But yeah, it's a shame that it seems like every week there's another case of something like this happening, where whether it be a man in Central Park telling a woman to put her dog on a leash and she's threatened to call the police and say that he's assaulting her, to a man using a counterfeit bill, and while he's detained he's being murdered. It's messed up is what it is, and we all have to get behind this, and it has to stop. Whether it be retraining the police force or actually disciplining these cops when they have complaints against them. I believe, dude, I'm sorry, I forgot his name already. What's it?
Derek Chauvin.
Thank you. Derek Chauvin. He's already had about 12 complaints lodged against him. And I'm not a cop, but I just wonder, how are all these complaints, how does one have all these complaints and is still able to do their job?
He has also been connected with 3 shootings involving people of color.
Yeah, so yeah, that's just not right at all. Smells like, I'm pretty sure that if it's just not right. If this was vice versa, and it was a white person using a counterfeit bill, cuffed, pretty sure he would have been put into the police car, read his rights, and we wouldn't be talking about this right now. But unfortunately, this is the world that we live in, where we have all black people, men and women, out here being like, hey, am I next? Like, what's going to happen if I see an officer, or if I see those berries, flashing behind me and as I'm driving?
Yeah. And it's hard for me coming from the perspective of obviously a white person. So I try to it I'm the type of person that I try to let the people affected by the events, whether it be race or abortion or anything like that, the people who actually have to go through the things, I try to let them be the ones to kind of like steer me in like how I should approach it, because I don't live that reality that you and everyone else does.
Right.
But I feel like, especially in this scenario, this is a scenario where, I mean, you should already be talking about it, but especially now, like, just as a white person, you kind of gotta talk about these things. You have to get the conversation started in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you really just can't sit quiet anymore, because this event was just so brazen. He wasn't even trying.
Right.
He wasn't even trying to pretend like, oh, I'm showing this man any form of decency. He might tell you it's not race related, but you know it is.
Mm-hmm.
But he's making no attempt to hide the fact that he is doing something so blatantly egregious.
Right.
Especially when you find out the man was unresponsive for 2 minutes and he still had his knee on his neck.
Right.
You can't just sit around and say, you know, it's not my problem or it doesn't exist, especially now when everything's documented.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are very, very, very few things that are not in some way, shape, or form recorded.
Right. And I mean, you have the cell phone videos of, the witnesses out there. You have the police body cams out there. So you're getting it from two, three, four different angles. And no matter how you look at it, it was uncalled for. It was unjust. It was just wrong.
For a man using a counterfeit bill,
Right.
a counterfeit bill that he probably didn't even know he had.
Right.
He probably got to.
Yeah. Someone wasn't paying attention, and passed it off here, passed it off there, and now it's in circulation. And unfortunately, he was kind of he's the victim in everything, in all of this.
And even if he did forge a check or forge a bill and tried to pass it off, that in no way, shape, or form constitutes your life, especially losing it in such a way, like that, just horrific of a way.
Right.
It's not fair to him. It's not fair to his family. It's not fair to just people of color in general.
Yeah. And it was a counterfeit bill. So at most, you're looking at, if it was a fake $100 bill, that's nothing.
Yeah, $100, especially in the grand scheme of things.
That might get you like a desk ticket, on like a normal day. Maybe an arrest, but you're probably out of jail. I mean, out of holding in like a couple hours once you make bail.
And I'm also coming from the perspective that I grew up in a very pro police officer family. There were multiple members of my family who were not just police officers, but like very high ranking police officers. So I was brought up in that community, but you can't sit there and see the things you're seeing and like without lying to yourself a little bit and say, "Hey, these things were justified."
Right.
And I will be fair to the people like that I grew up with, like who are very pro police officer. In this, especially in this specific case, 99.9% across the board are like, "Hey, I love cops, but this guy, this guy's a fucking piece of shit." You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And we're not saying, all cops are bad. Like I know I got friends that are cops and I got love for them and respect for them. And, hey, thank you for putting your lives on the line, every night or every day or whatever it may be. But this one cop, I'm sorry, I forgot his name again. I know his initials are DC.
Derek Chauvin?
Thank you. Derek Chauvin. Like, it was just uncalled for. Like, it was unjust. Like you said, 99.9% motivated by race. And, hopefully the justice system prevails in this case and he gets sentenced to some jail time.
I really I don't think it's possible that he doesn't face at least something, because with what's going on in Minnesota right now, and I'm not even casting judgment on them. Like, yes, your initial reaction is to be like, "Hey, looting and this vandalism and this stuff is terrible," and it is. I'm not trying to say these are not negative things. But I was talking about it with someone today. It's not like the last time you really heard, I'm a little young for it, but from the information I've gathered from talking to people who lived through it, the last time you really heard like a strong story of there being the racial conversation brought up was after the LA riots.
Which were brought on by the Rodney King beatings.
Exactly. I think while these things are terrible, and I don't, and I'm not trying to necessarily justify them, but when you don't want to have the conversation, people are going to stop asking you nicely.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
They are going to force the conversation.
Yeah. I was going to say that, like, you can only ask nicely for so long before you just get fed up. And especially when you're trying to have a conversation and the other side isn't willing to participate or engage. Well, unfortunately, drastic times call for drastic measures. And I'm not... Sorry.
It's not just the side that... It's not just, oh, one side doesn't want to negotiate, one side does. It's the side that is reaping all the benefits and none of the negatives from the situation.
Yep.
Are the ones unwilling to have the conversation. While the side that experiences all the negatives and very few of the benefits are the ones saying, no, we need to have this conversation.
Right. It's just fucked up. It's, for the lack of a better term, like better words, it's just fucked up that it's 2020 and we're still dealing with this shit.
And see, that's the thing. Seems to make it. Everyone makes it out like this is something new. Like this is something that hasn't been happening.
Right.
Yeah. So I saw Will Smith. I forget exactly where I heard it or saw it. I honestly, I think I heard it. Someone quote him on the radio.
Mhm.
So if it's not exact, give me like the benefit of the doubt here. But
We'll forgive you.
basically, he said racism is not new. It's just getting filmed more.
Yep.
Nothing is changed. You're just getting the access to it because everyone has a camera on their phone.
Right. To quote, as crazy as this sounds, to quote Kanye before he went off the deep end, racism's still alive. They just be concealing it. Like, no matter how hard they try, and they're like, oh, I'm not a racist, oh, you know, this and that in public, it's still out there. Except now it's being filmed every which way you go.
You just have access to it now.
Right.
Unprecedented access. Like,
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it's even access that the world wasn't even prepared for.
No one was prepared. No one's prepared for the technology that we have now and the way it's being used in a way to try to help the human population grow. No one was prepared for that.
But it just gets to a point that we've been here long enough that the shock from having the more access to these things, while it's still there every time you see it, you're still shocked every time.
Right.
It's getting to the point where that's not an excuse anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've seen it enough, you know it's real enough.
Mm-hmm.
You have the receipts. You know what I mean? Like, it's just something you can't. I really don't see how people are denying anymore.
There's no reason to. Like, everyone just, we have to open our eyes and we have to accept that it's still out there, and we all have to like unite in order to stop it.
Yeah, and you can't just sit idly by and just let it happen. You really you need to call it out and expose it where you see it.
Right. Well, I was gonna say, sorry, folks. Like, we had to get serious for a little bit of time, but it had to get done. We had to do it. Well, on the real, hey Chris, isn't there a UFC fight coming up this week?
Yes, there is. Sorry, that just got real heavy. That got real heavy, little uncomfortable.
Sorry, there was no good way to transition.
I'm jetted out as fuck today. Sorry, I'm just trying to bring the energy back up.
Mitchell, Spider.
So we have UFC Fight Night coming up. Main event that I'm actually pretty excited about. I'm really excited to see Tyron Woodley come back. I want to see if because I haven't seen him been doing all the TMZ show. Like, he might still be doing the TMZ show. I don't know. I just haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen him been doing that or the rapping or anything like that as much. And I feel like he's getting back to the gym and getting back to training and not trying to do all this hard stuff, because I really think he just didn't like what happened to him against Usman. He really just got manhandled.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is really a motivated Tyron Woodley, I'm very excited. And as much as Gilbert Burns has been on a streak, I really think a motivated Woodley is one of the best welterweights in the world.
I was gonna say welterweight. Wasn't that what's his name? The man that just retired. Henry Cejudo.
No, no,
Was
no, no, no,
no,
no.
he's not a welterweight.
No, he's a bantamweight and a
Okay.
flyweight.
Oh, okay.
Welterweight is 170, bantamweight is 135, and flyweight is 125.
I was way off. I'm sorry.
It's all right. But yeah,
I'm learning.
Gilbert Burns has put together a solid streak coming up here. Um, he's beat Damian Maya,
Mm-hmm.
Gunnar Nelson, Alexei Kunchenko. I still can't pronounce his name. He has a win over Olivier Aubin Mercier. He
Mhm.
lost to Dan Hooker. But Dan Hooker's a fucking monster. So he's got a nice little record going on right there. He's at the point where he needs that step up to see if he can stand with a Woodley.
How long has he been fighting for? Is he like a pretty young dude, like just kind of starting out, or has he been in the circuit for a little bit?
Um he's been around, but he's not like an OG.
Okay.
But he's been in the UFC for a little bit. Like he's been around.
Okay.
He's just finally getting. He's actually been in the UFC for a while, at least a few years. But he, he's really just now, I think, reaching like his pinnacle,
Mm-hmm.
or at least so far. I don't know what he's going to turn into, um, down the road, but I think it's definitely time for him to take that step up, see if he can handle it. But I think a motivated Tyron Woodley is one of the best welterweights in the world. He's
Okay.
powerful. He's super explosive. He can start and stop on a dime with just so much speed and aggression. It's scary,
Mm-hmm.
and that's his thing. Like he will hang back, and then all of a sudden he is in your face with a fucking bomb. And like he's another one of those guys that all he really needs is one. If he gets that good one, and I just really would like to see a motivated Woodley again. I really feel like a motivated Woodley who's ready to really attack Gilbert Burns.
Yeah.
I feel like that. I feel like that is something I'm definitely very excited for. But that's pretty much all I got for that card. Hold on, let me see.
Well, speaking of fighting, I was gonna say, did you see that we talked about this last week? Mike Tyson, he's doing his thing, possibly looking for an exhibition match. He showed up in Jacksonville, Florida at AEW's event this past Wednesday.
I did see that.
And who was in tow with him? Recently retired bantamweight champion
You got it.
Henry Cejudo.
Ooh, and you even said his name pretty close to right.
I'm getting better. I'm getting better.
But he was not only with Henry Cejudo, he was with the Phenom, the spinning head kick master, just fucking spam spinning shit and take all the steroids. Fucking Vitor Belfort, TRT's best friend, yo. And now that he's over at One Championship, he is way back on that TRT. He looks fucking huge.
So one's got to think, okay, what are they promoting? Like, is this just going to be, hey, we'll do AEW a couple weeks, make a little cash or whatever? Or are they promoting something bigger that we don't even know about? Because I saw Evander Holyfield's also training, saying he could get back in the ring and he kind of wants to do another exhibition match.
I know he said that, but I'd much rather see him fight Shannon Briggs if it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
I go back and forth whether I liked it. I know on another podcast I was kind of sounding like for it, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's a grown man. If he wants to do it again, let him do it again.
Damn straight.
Um,
I'm also not going to stop him. I do not want to get knocked out.
within correct parameters. Like, don't put him in against Deontay Wilder.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, don't put Evander Holyfield against Anthony Joshua. Like, it's just not
Right.
going to end well.
No.
But
if it's like, I don't know, just throwing out names like Roy Jones, oh my God, Roy Jones Jr. All right, maybe you make that happen.
yeah, and I'd like to see a Shannon Briggs fight. That'd be fun. They're guys that are both definitely like. If you've seen Mike Tyson, he's fucking in shape right now.
Yeah, he is.
As in shape as a 53-year-old can be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And Shannon Briggs is looking the same exact way, and they both have stated they would like to do it, and they wanna get back to doing a few fights. I think Briggs a little more seriously than Tyson does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Tyson's serious about fighting, but I think he's happy to do some exhibition fights for charity or whatever, and blah blah blah
Right.
blah blah. Where I'm not sure if that's the same with Briggs from the comments I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if any one of those was going to happen, that'd be the fight I'd pull for.
Yeah, let's make it happen. I don't know who their promoters are anymore, but whoever they are, make that happen.
I would also love to see him fight Tito Ortiz.
Ooh.
Not because I think it would be a good fight in boxing. I want it to be in boxing, obviously, just because I want to see Tito Ortiz get his face fucking demolished by Tyson.
That would be a lot of fun.
Because even though I think Tyson would do it, because he really likes MMA. I've seen like a bunch of interviews where he talks about it, and like he gets it. He understands like why the ground game is important. He's not just there for the boxing, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, but Tito Ortiz is an NCAA wrestler, I believe. Like, you're not going to learn enough in time, you know what I mean? Even if
Right.
you're just trying to sprawl and brawl.
Right.
But in a boxing fight, oh,
Oof.
Mike would eat him.
Oof.
Mike would
Oof.
eat him.
Yo, Tito Ortiz is going to catch them hands.
Oh, you have no idea. And Tito Ortiz just annoys me. He just really annoys me. But, you know, what can you do? What else you got for us, Deb?
Well, shifting from octagons and square circles to frozen water that people skate on, hockey's back. And with hockey, basketball's also back.
Lacrosse, but with knives on your feet.
There you go. Yeah, they have come up with a plan about hockey's got a 24-team round robin playoff system. So as of right now, hey, regular season, thanks, you're done. We'll see you next year, hopefully. And they're looking at 2 hub cities. Potentially, I've heard, having the Western Conference teams play on the East Coast and the Eastern Conference teams play on the West Coast, so that
as well.
no teams are getting home field advantage, even though fans still won't be allowed into the stadiums.
Yeah. I don't think that's necessarily the best idea. I feel like as long as, like, if you can find a neutral site stadium, like, you shouldn't be able to play. The Chargers shouldn't be able to play in the Chargers facilities.
Right.
But also there's the fact that some people would get to stay at home with their families and sleep in their own beds, and I feel like as long as you made a mandatory rule that everyone needs to go to a hotel and stay there, and you know what I mean, and like it's not in anyone's specific facilities where they know it better, I feel like there's no need to move to move all those people that far. I feel like it just adds to the risk of possible contagion.
Well, I believe you're right, and that they will actually stay in hotels. Like, one of the criteria for like these hub cities is that the arena and the practice facility have to be relatively close to each other, and I believe that there has to be plenty of hotels. So like in basketball, they're all going to play down in Disney World in Orlando at the the World Complex of Sports or World Sport Complex, whatever it is.
Something like that.
World Sports Complex, throw it in whatever order, and you got that building.
Which is honestly an absolutely great idea because it's just a place with so much room.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could even use the park to like just like get away. You know what I mean?
Right. And I saw with basketball, they're allowing like immediate family members to travel with the players. So they get to bring their family with them, which I'm sure they would all love.
And that type of place would have the space to accommodate that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Again, just as long as there's the availability of the testing to make sure. Because adding in more people adds in a different variable. You know what I mean?
Right. Obviously, number one goal is to make sure everyone is safe and there's enough tests for everyone out there.
But yeah, I honestly don't watch as much hockey as you do, Dev. Like I'm not as big into hockey, but I'm super excited for it to come back when it does. I just need something. I need something to talk about. I will watch every Ranger game. Don't get me wrong. I like hockey. I watch it, but like I'm not extra.
Nah, I feel you. But I personally, I don't know what it is about playoff hockey. I don't know if it's the crazy traditions that have gone back, 100 years.
I also
over
think
100 years.
I also just think just playoff anything.
Yeah. But
keep going.
I know that I was going to say, like, I'm a Rangers fan, and if the standings stay where they are, as they should, the Rangers drew the Hurricanes, even though we're technically an underdog against them, because we would be the 11 seed and they're the 5 seed. In the regular season, regular season we played them 4 times, beat them all 4 times. Top 2 players have scored 16 points total. So I welcome that matchup. And also, our team is healthy, and I feel like they can do some damage.
And I swear to God, if they don't get Lundqvist his fucking ring at some point, like I almost want them to trade him just so he can get his ring. I feel so bad.
Oh my god!
Especially because they got this new kid. I can't pronounce his name. I'm sorry.
Shesterkin.
Yeah. Especially because they got this new like kid who's like the young goalie prodigy. You know what I mean? Like if you're not going to use him, as much as it would kill me, because even me as like a cash Ranger fan loves Henrik Lundqvist.
I've had this conversation all season long about what are they going to do with Henrik. Are they going to trade him? Is he going to retire a Ranger? Is he going to... Because he has a no trade clause. So they can't move him until... I think he's going into the last year of his contract next season. So 21-22 would be the last year.
But if you went to him and say, "Hey, we're going to trade you to this very high level playoff contender that is probably just a goalie away,"
he would strongly consider it. I would hate to see it happen, but I would also be happy if he went off and won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, it's one of those love-hate things. You want him to get his ring because he's done so much for the Rangers and he's been loyal to the Rangers. He doesn't want to leave the Rangers.
Right.
But you know what? If you can get your ring, get your ring.
Right. And yeah, you said Igor Shesterkin is a young kid. I forget how many games he's played, but I'm pretty sure he's only lost 2 of those games.
Yeah, he's come out on fire.
Yeah.
And he was a very highly touted prospect in the beginning either way.
I think he was like the number 2 or number 1 goalie in Russia's KHL before he came over here.
And he's proven why.
Yeah, he has. That's hockey talk.
Let's do that hockey.
Thank you, Chance.
Chance the Rapper is one of the most like secretively hysterical people ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you think of Chance the Rapper, you think of Chance the Rapper. Like you think he's a great rapper. Like
Right.
um,
But
but
he
then
could also be Chance the comedian. Like
yeah,
he's funny.
you watch him on SNL, you watch him just on some of these interviews, you see him on Wild and Out. Like he's got a great sense of humor and he's got like great like comedic timing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just so like every time, every time I watch a hockey game, when the puck's dropped in my head, I'm going, all right, let's do that hockey. Because it's just a classic line.
It is.
And like even in his music, like the song he did with Action Bronson a while back.
Oh, I love that song. What's it called?
I cannot think of it right now. But I can recite one of the lines. It's just like it's a song about like bad exes or whatever, and like people treating them bad, and Chance just goes, "I hope you get a paper cut."
Who
It's
thinks of
just like-
that?
Or it's just like, oh my god, it's just like
Baby Blue.
I hope there's always snow in your driveway. Like just the most little inconvenient things, and it's the best verse.
Yeah, like the stuff he comes up with, like different level.
Okay, that's
That's
we've
enough.
given, we've
that's
given our
enough chance.
admiration to Chance.
No, but I was gonna say, switching over to the other side with basketball. I know we said that they're playing Orlando. They're doing something interesting because the West is on point. Like, I think you have a few games separating teams that are like, quote unquote, in the bubble to like the teams that are locked. So they're taking a page out of March Madness and doing playing games for the Spurs, Zion and the Pelicans, the Mavericks, and I believe Dame Lillard and his Portland Trailblazers.
Dame Dollar.
When he's not dropping bars, he's dropping assists.
And like I honestly respect him coming out being like, yeah, if we're just playing games to play games, I'm not coming back to play games.
Right.
Like we are in the middle of a pandemic. I could get injured. Like there are just so many different variables, especially coming off this time where they can't really practice like professional athletes can practice. Maybe some
Right.
people can, like LeBron probably can, like people who have these giant facilities in their house. But like it's still hard to really have yourself in shape
Right.
like you would during the season, and that could mean injury.
Right. And let's be real, sometimes soft tissue injuries are way worse than like hard bone injuries.
I remember some time back, one podcast host joined his fellow podcast host's kickball team. And this podcast host, who is devilishly handsome, thought, I'm a pretty athletic guy. I'm just going to go in there
Preach.
and fucking wreck these hoes. I got up to bat the first time. Oh, I'm sorry. He got up to bat the first time. He kicked the ball, got a pretty good hit, started making it down the baseline to first base. And in that moment, he was pretty sure he tore both his quads. Because he had not gotten full sprint in probably a couple years. When you're not used to doing it, your body does not react to it. You really need to build yourself up to that level, especially professional sports athletes.
Mm-hmm.
God, my legs hurt for like fucking 2 weeks after that. It was so bad.
Yo, people laugh, but kickball is a serious game, man.
Yo, kickball was something, yo. I
Yeah,
really
it
wish I
was.
could have kept doing it, but it's like fucking an hour and a half from where I live.
Yeah.
and I do like a bunch of other stuff that takes time.
No, I feel you.
But if that was like in my town, I'd do it fucking 100%.
Oh yeah.
Or if that was like over by you, I won't tell the people exactly where that is, but like
That's
closer.
That's because we don't know where I'm at.
It's true.
I'll tell you where I'm not. I'm not in Utah.
Yeah.
Salt Lake City.
Or are you dead?
Either way, yo, what up, Utah? Show some love.
Man, fuck Utah.
I mean, listen, I've told you the story that my alleged cousin plays for them, so.
My first character when I started playing 2K again got drafted by the Utah Jazz, and that is why I will always like, even though he fucked up with the Corona shit and was an asshole, I can't not love Rudy Gobert because he made that first season great for me. He was just blocking fucking everything.
He was a blocking machine. Too bad he couldn't block coronavirus.
That's fucked up. You're a bad guy.
Yeah, I might be. Come at me.
Bitch, I might be.
All right. We're slowly going off the rails.
Or maybe we're just heating up, Dev. You don't even know. Yeah, and then again, the MLB does not look like it's going well. I'm really starting to think the MLB is not going to happen.
Yeah, it's troubling. And I didn't realize that Major League Baseball, they have their CBA, I believe, is up next season. So whatever happens this season is going to directly affect the negotiations that will be front and center.
I do not in the slightest blame the players, and I made that pretty clear last week. Yeah, you can't. You have to protect what's yours.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one who is going to be putting yourself out there in these big meetings for people's entertainment, and you should be compensated the same way.
Yep.
That you were. And again, I think the prorated thing is fair. I think, you know what, we're playing half the games this year, we'll make half our normal contract. I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the players made that concession. They're just like, look, shit's like, times are tough. Shit's hard for everyone. Let's make this work. But then they wanted more, and I get they're gonna lose money. And I get it's not good for business. Then just don't have the season and don't have any revenue whatsoever.
Right.
Because as far as the contracts go, the players get paid no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's salary.
Right.
Whether they play or they don't play, they're getting paid that much money.
Right.
And it's guaranteed. So the fact that they're even giving you this, oh, we're only playing half the games, we'll take half the pay. The fact that they're giving you that is a courtesy.
Right. Because they could be straight up like, no, we want full pay. Like, this is what our contracts dictate. This is what we should be paid. If not, like, we could sue you guys for breach of contract or whatever other legal mumbo jumbo they use. But you can't fault the players because they're just, like you said, they're providing entertainment for millions of people. They're putting their lives, on the line. Like, you take a fastball to the head at 90 some odd miles per hour, you got problems.
Yeah,
but,
it's not necessarily going to work out for you.
Right. And like, yeah, it sucks that we're in this pandemic and we're in this situation, but that's their right, is to like, hey, we want to make sure we get our money. We're working with you. We're willing to take half, of our contracts, but don't try to cheap us. Don't mess with our money.
And I heard someone on the radio saying like, oh, don't say you've already taken a pay cut because you're working half the time, so you get paid half the time. But that's the thing. They don't like. Sure, you could say, okay, they're not taking a pay cut because they're getting paid the same amount per game.
Mm-hmm.
But the point I made last week, they're taking away half your hours.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anyone out there who gets half their hours taken away and just goes, you know what, that's fine.
Right.
And that's what these players did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's not looking good for baseball. It's
Really not.
Story.
It's really not looking good. And at this point, I've come to terms with it. I've accepted it because I understand what's going on.
Right.
I guess. But still doesn't mean I have to like it.
Oh, okay, Wayne. All right,
I'm sorry. I didn't get that one.
I said, okay, Wayne.
Wayne from Wayne's World?
No, from Letterkenny.
Figure it out, Dev.
All right, Joe, pitter patter. Let's get at her.
Oh my god. I didn't even realize I was wearing the flannel.
Yeah. Well,
feel like Wayne now.
well, have a puppers.
I wish. A friend of ours was supposed to be able to get us for that, and she has not delivered yet, and I'm very salty about it.
I just want a fucking puppers. Or a Gus and Brew. And I looked for that stuff. I looked for that stuff when I was in Canada. I was in the wrong part of Canada, I guess.
You like puppers too?
Yeah, I like puppers. No, wait, that's not it.
It is. You like Gus and Blue?
Yeah, I like Gus and Brew.
All right then. Sorry, we're just making random fucking things now. Do we have any other topics to talk about today, Devin?
No, I think that's it. I think we actually successfully hit like all major news this week. Not much of it, but hey, we hit it.
It's more than last week. Last week was rough.
Yeah.
Last week was tough to put together an episode for you guys because there was not much going on, and there's still not much going on. But we will still keep bringing you as much content as the world provides us.
Hey, if we could just get our asses... My fault. If I could just get my ass up early enough to watch some European football, we could talk about that. Because Serie A is coming back, Premier League's coming back, La Liga's coming back.
Part 2 of this Lance Armstrong, the Lance Armstrong documentary is coming out this week.
That's
Sunday,
true.
I believe.
I gotta watch them.
Part 1 is great. It was the one where they were trying to make Lance look like a sympathetic figure, and it did in a way. Because when they were talking about his cancer, I did not I always heard he just had testicular cancer. I didn't know he was getting nodes, little I forget exactly what they called them, but basically little tumors in his lungs and
oh, word?
Yeah, it was he had a very, very, very low percentage of surviving that.
Oh, damn.
And then he came back and won the Tour de France 7 times. And yeah, there's the drugs thing, but I don't even have a problem so much with the fact that he used the drugs, because I read somewhere, and I forget the exact number, but they had to go back to 18th place to find someone who didn't pop for EPO. You know what I mean? So it's it's not, the playing field's level. It's not something like fighting or football or something like that where people are getting hurt because you're taking these things. You know what I mean? So that is what that is. I don't really care so much either way, especially because the playing field was level. But I'm very but they tried to portray him as a sympathetic figure, but he came off like kind of an asshole to me.
I mean, I've heard stories that he is legit an asshole.
Yeah, that's why I'm excited for this week's episode, because this is the episode that's supposed to like make him not look great. And from what I hear, like there's a lot, like he really just buried people who would even hint that he was on any type of thing, like ruined their careers,
Yeah.
all based off a lie. And that's where I have the problem. I don't have the problem so much per se of him using the drugs, especially in a, like, look, you're doing that to yourself, and the playing field's pretty even, so like the competition's still there to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whether or not you want to say it's pure or not, whatever. But if everyone's doing it, it is what it is to me.
Mm-hmm.
But he just apparently took it to the next level to not be caught and not be found out, and anyone who would even question him would just get destroyed, apparently. That's why I'm excited to really watch the second half, to really like get the details on that, see if any of that's true or whatever. Yeah, but that should be something good. I think that comes out Sunday.
Yeah.
I think
Probably
Sunday
9:00.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think Sunday at 9, on ESPN Plus, and that is not sponsored. All right. But I think that's about all we got for you today. Try not to drag this on any longer. I am Chris Gray. That is Devin Mitchell. We are the Basement Boys.
Coming at you live from somewhere.
I'm in the basement. You?
Look, all I know is I'm not in Utah.
Okay. Okay. Well, see you.
Deuces.
Welcome to the basement.